Today we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay. I was at Gamescom this week and I was invited to see 50 minutes of live gameplay. This was not a video, it wasn't fake, it was real gameplay, and the audience in the room were influencing what choices were made during the gameplay. No recording of the game or audio was allowed, but I can talk you through everything that I saw in that 50-minute gameplay demo. And let me start by saying that I think this is the most detailed video game I have ever seen. And for me, usually I'm not that into single player games. They've got to be really special for me to be interested in them. I'm much more of a multiplayer guy. But what I saw in this 50-minute gameplay demo felt really new to me and something next gen, something that I haven't really felt for a very long time. So I thought the best way to do this is just talk through everything that I saw, and up on your screen I'll be showing you screenshots and snaps from the trailer that the team have released, because a lot of the stuff that they've shown happened in this gameplay demo, so hopefully that helps you visualize things a bit better. So the demo started off with a bit of an introduction. The game is a first-person RPG action game. They're not saying it's a first-person shooter, but there are shooter mechanics in it and they look good. Fluid gameplay, dialogue options, everything happens in real time. And there's no loading screens in the game. Everything is seamless, which was the most impressive thing. So the main character is called V, and they live in a place called Night City, which is a fictional city in Northern California. Obviously the game is set in 2077. The game is very mature. It doesn't shy away from nudity. There was a lot of that in the demo. It's got a day and night cycle, a weather system, and this city is divided up into 6 districts. The currency that you have to accrue in the game to buy stuff and do things is called Eurodollar, and the slang term for it is eddies. And as I said, this is a first-person game when you're on the ground, but there were sections in the demo where you were in a vehicle and you could go third person, a bit like GTA. The game has damage indicators as well. And if I were to describe it, it's like a mix of Fallout, Deus Ex and Grand Theft Auto, but with a lot more on top, and we'll get into that. So demo begins, customization. You can pick male or female, skin color, hair color, eye color, facial features, tattoos, what your backstory is and your stats. You can pick key life events that have happened to you and that will affect your character and the things that you do and your traits. All sorts of ways to make your character look cool and customize your stats. So the room chose male or female. We went with male, and then boom, you dropped into the game, and this is the intro mission, and it's set in a very dingy drug den style apartment, and you've got to go in there after this gang of scavengers who are kidnapping and harvesting implants from synthetics or robots, whatever they call them, I can't remember. Now your objective here is to go into this apartment, into this gang drug den, and find a specific female droid who's got a rare implant. So you move through the apartment, get into a fight with someone, and you've just got a pistol at this point, so, you know, pretty standard, shooting people. And then the main character puffs on an inhaler, which will give you a boost or enhancement to your stats. In this case, the one that it did was a slow motion, kind of like a bullet time thing, and that allowed you to get around quicker and shoot people in slow motion. Looked awesome. You could also shoot through walls, and enemies were shooting at you through walls too. There was combat options, like you could choose to jump out of a window and flank while the AI companion with you called Jackie bursts through a wall and takes down a guy with a light machine gun who was pinning you down. So there's a bit of options there in the gameplay. Then you go into a room, you check a couple of the droids, they're not the right ones, and then you find the correct droid or synthetic in the bath. And she had like this special kind of skin or material on her, which meant that she was an expensive synthetic, and you kind of jack into her using this thing that you pull out of your neck, and you confirm that it's her. But then you also realize that this synthetic is on the verge of death and her vitals are unstable, so you've got to get her out there as soon as possible. I feel like this particular synthetic is very important to the story for reasons we don't know yet. And it's noted that she might have a virus, and you remove the chip from the back of her ear, and then you get to choose, do you want to carry the synthetic or do you want your mate Jackie to carry the synthetic? In the demo you choose to carry her, and then you call up this trauma team who are like the most expensive high-end medical insurance for rich people. They come in on this ship, burst out with their guns, they tell you to put the body on the floor, they check her, take her away, and then leave you there. Now in terms of graphics, this looked incredible. The lighting, the shadows, the detailing, the character models, the particle effects, it was very impressive. And I'm not sure if it was using the new Nvidia RTX cards, but there was an Nvidia thing on the screen at times. So I'm going to assume that it was, because the lighting just looked unreal. And as I said, this was real gameplay. Next part of the demo, you're in an apartment and it turns out you've had someone in your room, so there are romance options in the game apparently. And you get a quick view of V's apartment, which shows tons of detail, and then there's a walk-in weapons closet which requires a pin code. You go in there and you can choose from a selection of weapons, and then you come out, you go to the wardrobe, and you can kind of browse through the clothes that you've got there. One of the items of clothing is a jacket, and the jacket has stats and buffs. So the clothes and gear that you wear obviously affects your character's stats. So far you're probably thinking, okay, sounds kind of cool, but next is where it starts to get really, really impressive. So you leave your apartment, you walk around what's called a mega building, and that's like a huge building complex that forms a micro society of its own. There's people doing things there, doing their laundry, boxing robots, training at the gym. If you see an advert for something, you can go up to it and click on it, and then it will show you where you can buy that thing. So you walk around the building for a bit, see some stuff, looks cool, and then you get in this big elevator. As you're going down the elevator, you see all the different layers of this massive building, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. And then you hit street level, the doors open, and you're out into the wild of the city. Now, the whole room, when we saw this, kind of gasped, because it just looked alive. It looked like it was beaming full of energy. There were NPCs, AI everywhere, going about their days, obeying traffic laws by standing on the roadside and waiting for the lights to turn from red to green, bumping into each other, talking to each other. There were coffee shops, people talking, having coffees. You can interact with a lot of these people too to find missions, cars flying in the sky. The vibe of this game is very Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, but without the rain and the fog and the grey tones, at least in this part of the map. It was like Blade Runner, but they turned all the lights on and there wasn't any smog. It looked incredible, and you can see from the trailer they've released the kind of vibe that they're going for, and this is how it looked in the gameplay. It just felt real and alive and just incredibly detailed. And as you're walking around, you can go to a gunsmith and maybe buy some guns. You can go check out a fighting club or an arena. And I think at this point there was an advert for like a drink or something. The dev went up to it, interacted with it, and it led him to a vending machine where he got a drink out of it, and that topped off his health and healed him over time. And there's roads and there's cars and trucks and vehicles, and at the moment they confirmed that cars, bikes and trucks will be drivable in the game. There are also hover cars, as I said, flying around the sky, but they haven't confirmed if you're going to be in those yet. I think it would be a shame if you didn't get to use those, but hover cars, pretty cool, right? So you meet up with Jackie, and then he tells you that there's an opportunity for a job. So you walk down some steps into a car, and this is where you meet Dex. He looks like he might be one of many powerful gang kingpin type dudes in Night City. And as you get in the car, he starts talking to you, and I think in most other games this would just be like a conversation list where you can pick a few options, but as you get in the car, he greets you, it's all very realistic, and then the car starts driving, and as it's driving he's explaining what the mission is to you, and you get some options as to what to say and how to approach the conversation. And doing jobs for him, for other of these guys, can get you street cred, which is almost like a currency that you can use to unlock content throughout the city and progress through the game. And this dude says to you that he needs to get his hands on some powerful technology, but he needs you to prove yourself so you can be part of his gang. And then you can either steal the tech, or he gives you the option of seeking out a Militech agent called Meredith Stout, who the scavengers stole that gear from in the first place. So you can get them to play off each other. You could go one-sided, you could go neutral, or you could screw them both over. So then the conversation ends, you accept the job, and upon getting out of the car, you then rejoin Jackie and tell him about the job. And so you set up a meeting with this Meredith Stout, who we just mentioned. And again, no loading whatsoever, it's all seamless. So the next thing you do, you head towards Jackie's car, because you need to go to this meeting with Meredith. But as you do, you notice that there's a dude loitering around the vehicle. He looks familiar. He's part of the gang from the very first mission in the apartment with the other scavengers. And he's there because the actions of you going in there and killing everyone and doing it loud has caused them to hunt you down. If you'd have done it stealthily and got in and out without being noticed, he probably wouldn't be there. But he is. You get into the car, you start driving, and they start chasing you in a van and shooting their guns at you. So you need to fire back. Jackie takes over the driving. It feels a bit on rails. There was a transition between, you driving casually and freely and then the chase happening. But it was seamless and very fluid. It didn't feel forced at all. You're shooting at these guys in the truck in front of you. Eventually you hit one of the wheels, they skid and crash. That's the end of them exploding into a fireball. So with that distraction out of the way, you head to the meeting with Meredith. Open a line of dialogue, but they beat you down and try to interrogate you. One of her bodyguards pushes you into the car, pulls out a cable and hacks into you with a lie detector. And they say that there's no way that you can lie without them knowing. They ask you a load of questions about whether you're alone, what are you up to, and you have to bear in mind that they will know if you're lying. And the guy in the gameplay demo lied. They knew, which didn't go down too well, but they also have this hostage with them and they ask you, do you know who the hostage is? You say no, realizing that you're telling the truth, and then they reopen the negotiation dialogue to get that tech that we talked about. So you can either choose at any point here to pull a gun on them or keep talking. If you do, you can then convince Meredith to take up the offer of funding the purchase of the stolen gear from the gang. She then agrees because she needs to uncover a mole in her company, and you agree that you will help to do that. So she gives you a credit chip with 50,000 euro dollars on it, so you can go and buy this gear, whatever it is. We'll reveal that later. But by meeting with this woman, you've opened up a non-violent approach to getting in a room with the gang who you need to buy the gear off. All throughout the demo, it's about choice. How do you want to play things? How do you want to do it? But before you head to the final mission of the gameplay demo, you go and see what's called a Ripperdoc, this guy here, and they specialize in augmentations or cyberware as it's known in the game. So they jack you into this chair and you can pick from a series of implants that you want. So you go with a optical implant and you test it out, and this lets you zoom into objects and also scan the environment for people and information on threat levels, points of interest, things that you can interact with. So one, you can zoom in with your eyes, you can scan, but you also get this subdermal grip for your hand. It doesn't just appear on your hand either or in a menu. There's a full scripted animation where you get into the seat and your hand gets locked up and then you see it actually fused onto your hand and then it's there permanently. And when you have that, any pistol or weapon that you're now holding, it will give you more information on the screen. So it will tell you the amount of ammo in the magazine and any buffs or stats or fire modes. And because we've gone to see this Ripperdoc, we've now essentially upgraded our character. So this is where the demo really starts to heat up. You get back in your car and you drive over to this robot gang. You go there with Jackie. It's a very tense environment. These guys are pretty nasty. And you find out that the tech that you're after is a spider bot, and this is a little robot that can walk up walls and shoot people. Looks really nasty, and it's being held by a gang called Maelstrom, and they're a gang or a group obsessed with body modification, and their goal is to become machines themselves. So they don't really want to be human anymore. They want to add that many augmentations and upgrades to their bodies that they're essentially non-human. And they're using a lot of Militech gear, which they stole from that woman's crew to fortify their hideout and give themselves some firepower. So tense, very sketchy atmosphere. There's a bit of dialogue, a bit of back-to-back, and they try and bait Jackie into a fight. And then you can either choose to ask him to sit down and de-escalate things or go along with him and have a big fight. Now the first guy is pretty easy to persuade, and you show him the 50k chip and he brings out the spider bot, demos it to you, and then one of the leaders comes out with guns telling you that you smell like Militech. He could kind of tell that you'd been working with them, whatever. There's a few dialogue options allowing you to either de-escalate the situation with a nice word or two, or you can instigate violence. Eventually you de-escalate things, you bring this guy around, and then you tell him that there's extra information on this chip that you've got. So he gets one of his guys to plug it in and check it. He has a look at it, he's convinced. So okay, done and dusted, the deal's done. You pick up the spider bot in a case, and as you're walking out, one of the guys in the room mocks your jacket. He doesn't like your jacket and he says something rude to you. At this point, Jackie looks at you, you have a little bit of dialogue, and you can choose to fight or just let it go and leave with the spider bot. Of course, the violent route was chosen, and you and Jackie shoot everyone in the room using the slow motion ability. Now this triggers a series of consequences. The alarm goes off, everything is locked down, meaning that your route out of there is now going to be littered with enemies and they're coming for you. But before leaving the room, the dev searches a few loot boxes in there and finds some cool weapons, which is a tech shotgun, which has got a couple of different fire modes, a big spread, a small spread, but you can also penetrate multiple enemies at once with it and certain walls and materials, so you can shoot through walls quite reliably with it. Now at this point, the devs that were presenting this did a bit of dev magic and boosted V's skills and abilities so you could see some of the other combat mechanics in the game. And then you leave that building and you're shown some stealth and takedown mechanics. There was this one point in the demo where he goes up behind someone, pushes their head down into a basin of water and shoots them in the head under the water. It looked absolutely brutal. There's like a cloud of red blood that comes up. I think that means that contextual takedowns are in the game and will interact with the environment near you. So with the takedowns, you can go lethal, you can go non-lethal, or one of the options that the guy did in the demo is he did the takedown, he held on to the guy and then he hacked into him, and because he was connected to other bad guys in the area, you can then inject a virus into their software, like a malicious software to the other gang members, giving them a chance of their weapons jamming when they inevitably fight you. And you can also tell their locations from jacking into this guy and hacking him. So everything is connected. And then the craziness begins and the combat really starts to ramp up. There's wall running in this game, double jumping, dashing. You've got the mantis arms equipped now. If you remember the woman from the promotional art and the original trailer, you can use those. So at one point the dude wall runs up a wall, jabs one of the mantis arms into the wall to hang there like you could do in Titanfall, for example, and then does a Dishonored style takedown on one of the gang members. It just looked incredible. It all looked very fluid. The slow motion stuff really came in handy. There was a mini boss who had this giant Edge of Tomorrow style mech suit on, but because you've got that new eye augmentation, you can scan him and figure out a weak spot. You find the weak spot's on his back, you hit the slow motion, you do a slide, get around the back of him, shotgun the weak spot, and then he just goes down after a few more hits. As you're moving around this environment, the guy's doing a bit more looting and he picks up a couple more weapons. One of them was something called the Smart SMG, which is very much like the Smart Pistol from Titanfall, where it locks onto enemies in your peripheral vision and then the bullets home into them. Very cool. But he also found this massive sword. It looks like something that Cloud would have from Final Fantasy, and you can use that as a melee weapon to literally decapitate people. At one point he hit the slow motion, did a slide, swung the sword, and the dude's legs came off in slow motion. So decapitation is in the game. Of course decapitation's in this game, why not? But one other ability that the sword had was to create a electromagnetic field, or whatever you want to call it, and you could hold that up, activate it, and it would act as a bullet shield that deflected bullets off you. So there was one point in the demo where he was crossing a bridge and he was using this magnetic field, tons of people shooting at him, but he uses it to get across to the other side and just start hacking people's heads off with this sword. It reminded me of Fear a lot for some reason, if any of you guys have ever played that. There was another skill as well that allowed you to see the ricochet trajectory of bullets. So during this fight on the way out of this building, you get pinned down by a ton of these gang members and he gets the pistol out, activates this ability and uses the trajectory to shoot people around corners. So it gives you an idea of where the bullet's going to go. You line it up, bounce a bullet off a metal surface and just shoot people around corners. And then he was using that shotgun as well, scanning the environment, blasting people through walls, through structures, columns. It was just absolute chaos and it looked so gorgeous. The neon lights in the background, the slow motion effects, all these abilities coming into play and just working great and seamlessly with each other. So you and Jackie, you take everyone out, and then in order to escape, you've got multiple options. So it was noted that there was a door that you could hack, but your skill level was too low, or there was a vent that you could use with your engineer skill. You go up there, and once you're outside, you find the corporate agents who were there watching you, and they rant about the bodies being left behind, and V and Jackie walk to the car. He puts the spider bot in the front boot, so it's not like it just disappears into an inventory somewhere. He actually opens the boot, gets the case, puts it in, and you get in the car and drive, and then Cyberpunk 2077 title screen comes up. That's the end of the demo. So I don't know if you can tell, but I am pretty hyped for this game. As I said at the start, it really looks like one of the most detailed video game worlds I have ever seen. Seamless with no loading. The AI looked very impressive. The combat looked smooth and visceral and satisfying. It's an adult, mature game. There's romance options, there's customization, there's blood and gore, decapitation, and most importantly, the writing was fantastic. The voice actors were amazing. Nothing felt cringy or forced or weird or anything less than AAA and absolutely polished. They've been working on this game for more than 5 years, and you can really tell why. Having seen real gameplay for myself now and being involved in that and influencing the decisions that were going on there, it looks like this is shaping up to be something really special. I cannot wait to play this game when it comes out. It just oozed style and polish, and it really impressed me. Whatever CD Projekt Red are doing over there, they should just keep doing it, because I really believe that this is going to be a phenomenal game. If you're into RPGs, if you're into shooters, FPS games, Blade Runner style, neon, futuristic environments, this game is going to absolutely tick all of those boxes for you. I was very impressed, as you can tell, and I just wish that you guys could see the gameplay too, so I'm hoping that they release that stuff online. To me, it looked ready to go, so I'm expecting that they will release that gameplay soon and you can see exactly what I mean. So do let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.